Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This week we have Luke with us. I can't wait for you guys to find out more about who he is, what he does. With that said, Luke, take a second to say hello to everyone.
Hey, Tony. Hey, everyone.
Hey, welcome to the Tony Shap Show. Let's just kick it right in. Let's just go right into it. So start us off with a one-word open, Luke.
I'm energized.
Energized. Why is that?
It's it's a good time to be in sports betting these days.
Awesome. So let's talk about your business. Tell me how it got started. I was reading about your bio, how you started with investing in some stocks, and you borrowed money and stuff like that. So I'd love to hear that story, how you got started, your experience, and where you're at today.
Sure. So we started PropSwap in 2015, before sports betting became legalized effectively around the country. That happened in 2018. So we've been running this business for 6 years. The genesis is I was living in San Francisco working for Bloomberg at the time. I was in hedge fund sales. So any hedge fund in Los Angeles or Orange County not named PIMCO was basically under my watch. So my job was to sell them Bloombergs and explain how to use the software better and in hopes that they buy more licenses. And was visiting Las Vegas just socially. It was Labor Day weekend, 2013. Before Labor Day, of course, is before the NFL season begins. And I bet on the New Orleans Saints to win the Super Bowl. So at the time, they were 50-1 odds going into that season. So I bet $100, I would collect $5,000 if the New Orleans Saints do indeed win that year's Super Bowl. Fast forward halfway through the NFL season in 2013, the Saints were 7-1. The odds dropped to 15-1. But I have this 50-1 ticket from Labor Day. And I call my now business partner who went to Las Vegas to work in sports betting. And I said, hey, if I mail you this ticket at the end of the NFL season, the Saints win, can you get the $5,000 for me? And then, Venmo me or PayPal, whatever's easy. It's like, yeah, of course. I do that all the time for people. Well, then I said, these are transferable. And if there's not a marketplace for transferable assets, like that doesn't make sense. We have it for stocks and bonds and options and every other sneakers these days and everything else. These are transferable assets. So we started emailing attorneys and, the first 14 attorneys said, absolutely not. You cannot start PropSwap. This is money laundering. This is messenger betting. Still arguments we get today, 6 years later. But the first 14 attorneys gave us this litany of reasons why we should never start this company. And the 15th attorney said, no, you are correct. These are transferable. This would be a permissible business in the state of Nevada, because that was the only state you could bet on sports back then. So that attorney, who's still our Nevada attorney today, who's obviously made hundreds of thousands of dollars by sticking with us and us, hiring him, presented us to the Nevada Gaming Control Board. And he said, this is permissible. Here's why it's permissible. This is not money laundering. This is not messenger betting. This is a permissible business. And then in 2015, we went live. And obviously, 6 years later, now we're the nation's secondary market for bets from New Jersey, where I live now, or Pennsylvania or Mississippi or Iowa, and all these different states that have now legalized sports betting. We are the place to buy and sell your sports bets. So, don't take no for an answer was my lesson in this business.
That's really cool. Thanks for giving us the context there. It's really cool. Talk to us about a recent win, Luke. What did you recently experience that you would say it's a win for you, and what did you learn from it? So our audience can be right there with us.
Sure. In 2020, even without 4.5 months of sports, we had $1 million in ticket sales. So that was the first time we've ever done that. To do that in a year where, almost 45% of the calendar year had no athletic events to wager on, we were pretty happy about that. So I'd say that's, fundraising aside, we've raised a fair amount of money by now. That's incredible. And the fact that other people have seen where this business goes, that's incredibly reassuring. And some really smart people have invested, and I appreciate all of them. But I guess, the $1 million number, like that was so many different customers that thought PropSwap is a good idea. I thought that was probably my favorite win over the last, year or so.
That's awesome. I know there's some public information out there how much you raised. What was that number?
We've now raised 4 million since inception. In the works for another one. It seems like the sports betting industry is clearly here to stay, right? I think anyone who's looking at how sports betting looks in Europe or Australia and is looking at where it is in America, like can see where this goes. So people are interested, and obviously raising money helps us expand and offer new features and products and partnerships. So we'll be doing another one soon.
That's really cool, because on the other side of the listeners that I have there are a lot of investors, and also I get them on here as well. So that's really cool that you mentioned that. Talk to us about a recent failure. What happened that you would consider, something that happened that you consider a failure, and also what did you learn from it, Luke?
Sure. So my job is expand the business and fundraise. My other co-founders in charge of our product. So we've had, it's a team effort always. Every company that fails is a team effort. We've had a few product fails, just features we thought would launch properly and didn't. But I'll give you my side. In a fundraise, you have so many candidates lined up to potentially invest, and inevitably many of them are going to say no. So there was a particular investor that we thought we were going to get a very sizable investment from, and we got down to the wire, and he just said, yeah, I think that I'm worried about the primary markets potentially offering PropSwap as a solution, and that was well into the 6-figure check. So it's like, I was in sales before starting this company. Like that's gonna happen. Like people get so upset about a partner saying no, or an investor saying no, or a customer. Like that's life, and it's all a numbers game, right? Like you better have another investor lined up or another customer lined up, because that's going to happen. I don't care how big you are. You could be Apple. Apple's still, there's still plenty of people who wouldn't invest in Apple. What are they, $900 billion market? No, probably $1.2 trillion market cap right now. So, that's just life, and you can't get down yourself. It's you just the solution to that is have someone else lined up.
That's really great, Luke. You said something really powerful earlier when we were talking about how you did not give up. You tell people not to give up. I would love to hear from you. What was that head talk that, if the uncertainty kicked in, but what was that talk that kept you on that path of not giving up? Like, what were you saying to yourself? What was the vision that you had that kept you going through when people are telling you this is not going to happen?
Yeah. We're talking about the lawyers before we started this company. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that comes down to being knowledgeable about what we were talking about. So we studied before we contacted any attorneys. We would, I was still working at Bloomberg. We were burning the midnight oil. I would be home by 6 p.m., start working on PropSwap, and every single Saturday and Sunday I was working on PropSwap. And before we contacted any attorneys, we read all the Nevada gaming statutes, every possible law in the state of Nevada pertaining to sports betting. We read them, highlighted them, printed them out. I just had hundreds of pages in my bedroom just trying to figure out, is this business permissible? And nothing in all of those statutes said you can't transfer your betting ticket. So the point is, like, be knowledgeable and be educated about your business, about your industry. And if you know more than everyone else, then it doesn't matter what they say. Like, you're right. Right? Like, we knew that this was a legitimate business, regardless of what these, guys and gals who'd been in gaming. I wasn't even in gaming. Obviously, I was in finance. These people who were in gaming for, 40 years, 50 years, practicing law in the state of Nevada or elsewhere, we not taking no for an answer and just being educated about your subject. you just got to keep pushing. And if you're more educated than the other person, you can have confidence that you are correct in your stance.
I love that. That was very deep because I was just, going to ask you, have you ever thought about writing a book? Because that was like 5 chapters right there.
Yeah. We've had multiple people say you guys should, at least at the very least, just be taking like a journal during this business. But yeah, that's so far away. I can't even, we're focused on today and running the business, but there have been people who have said you could turn this into a book one day, but that's a long road away.
Absolutely. Because there's a lot of people that give up and they don't have anything as a stretch like you had to go through. But I love what you said. It's knowing you got the knowledge. That's what helps you to drive and push through, and you doing your due diligence and stuff like that. Now, here's another question for you, Luke. If you could go back and tell your 21-year-old self one piece of advice, what would you say to yourself?
So when I was 21, I was leaving University of Arizona to go work at Bloomberg. I was, I would say back then, I hope I've, kind of had, I'm 32 now, so that was 11 years ago. I hope I kind of figured out the business side of life early, but, just to reiterate, like, be friendly. Like, I can't stress enough people that don't like networking, and not even networking, just like being a friendly person. I don't care if it's the barista at Starbucks or, the CEO of DraftKings, like, just be a friendly person. The more friends you have in this life, just the better human being you are, but B, it just helps out. And I think a lot of people just don't like socializing and don't like making new friends. And I've just never understood that. Like, at a bare minimum, it's just the right thing to do as a human being, but it can help out in business and in life. So, I started to kind of figure that out in my early 20s, but it's still like, I get random LinkedIn messages from people. Some of those LinkedIn messages have turned into, deep 6-figure investments. And, I was always of the impression like, it's a DM or it's a personal message or the LinkedIn message, just disregard it. But it takes 22 seconds to read a LinkedIn message, right? It takes 22 seconds to read an Instagram DM or a Facebook personal message. Like, just read it. You don't necessarily have to respond, but that's what helps you grow as a human and grow the business. So just be friendly would be my piece of advice to my 21-year-old self.
That's really awesome. I think what you said was really powerful, and I was able to resonate with that. And I couldn't help not to think. There was a book back here that I read, and I forgot who it was, but essentially it said we all operate from fear, and we don't want to put ourselves out there. Like you said, being nice to people, being friendly. You attract more bees with honey, right? So if you're genuinely a good person, why put that cover up? And one book I do remember I just recently read was Ryan Sarahan, that big New York real estate agent guy. He's got a couple books. One of them is called Big Money Energy. I was reading, and he talks about the stuff that you just talked about, where it's about your energy you put out there, and like you said, being positive and just being out there and being friendly. And you never know what it comes to, and it could go to like a DM on LinkedIn. You got a 6-figure investment. That's really powerful. I know that's going to motivate a lot of people listening, because that next DM, that next email, that next phone call, that next interview could be life-changing, right? Yep. So that's really cool. Now here's another trick question. This one's the only trick question. So Luke, what is one question that you wish that I would have asked you and I haven't asked you?
I've found that Steve Jobs, I listened to an interview by Steve Jobs, of course, when he was alive, and he was asked what were the 2 biggest reasons he was successful. And his answer was, number 1, never giving up when, so many people in the 90s. And again, like even now, if he was still alive, there's still tons of people who say, I wouldn't buy Apple stock, or I won't buy an Apple product. So he said his ability to never give up was one reason he was so successful. And the second reason was his ability to quickly read people and hire properly and hire effectively. That's when you transition from a founder to a CEO, right? The founder is just building and expanding and kind of raising money, but like the CEO, like he's in charge of the people of the organization. So that's kind of something that I've had to learn, and I still have plenty to learn of becoming that CEO and managing this company. So I'd say that's been the biggest learning curve from transitioning from that founder to the CEO role. That you learn something new every day. You're always going to make hiring mistakes, and we've hired developers who didn't pan out. We've hired, a couple sales reps who didn't pan out, and interns. And, we hired a kid from Wharton that just didn't pan out. And like, I sometimes think to myself, well, we should never hire from Wharton again. It's like, no, like we don't, you can't generalize the entire school just because one candidate didn't, pan out. So just things like that, and trying to figure out what worked and what didn't work when hiring has been a key attribute and how we scale this company.
I love a lot of the things that you just said, and it's you could tell, when you were speaking to that, it's not a coincidence that you're successful. So I just wanted to recognize you for that and compliment you for that. So there's a lot of powerful things that you said. And also I couldn't help to think about, I grew up in the 80s, but in the 90s, when you said never give up, when you're talking about the Steve Jobs thing, I don't know if you saw this. It's a famous thing. Like Zig Ziglar was a big sales guy that he passed away. But there was always this one picture in one of his seminars or books, wherever it was, basically was a frog getting eaten by a bird of some sort. And as he's going down the mouth, the frog has reached out and grabbed the throat of the bird. And it says never give up. So to your point, what you just said with never give up, that's a cool thing that visually came into my mind. So this has been really awesome. So how can our listeners find out more information about your company?
Of course, I have a website, just PropSwap.com. I'd say we're mostly active on Twitter. We'll post, obviously good tickets for sale, the Lakers to win the NBA Finals, or Tampa Bay Bucks to repeat as Super Bowl champs, things like that. But we also just post funny memes and, current events and sound clips. So we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We haven't launched TikTok yet. We're working on that. Back to the old hiring question, I don't know how to use TikTok. So hiring someone that knows how to use that and is competent at it is going to be a challenge. So Twitter, Instagram, website. We of course have a PropSwap app. If you're into sports betting, check us out. The business model is we're a secondary market. So you bet on the Phoenix Suns to win the NBA Finals at the beginning of the season. They were 100-1 back then. Now they're 12-1. You can list that 100-1 ticket on our website and someone else will buy it from you. And typically the seller lists it for a discount. So the buyer, when they're buying that Phoenix Suns ticket, gets the best price possible. So instead of using a primary market provider like DraftKings or FanDuel, people should take a look at our website, find the best odds in the country and the Phoenix Suns, just like StubHub, right? I always give the analogy, typically when people are trying to go to a Knicks game, they're not going to MadisonSquareGarden.com, they're going to StubHub.com, right? To see if they can find a cheap Knicks ticket. And that's what PropSwap is. Check us out first. If we don't have a cheap Phoenix Suns ticket, no harm, no foul, but that's what PropSwap is. We're a secondary market, just like StubHub or eBay.
That's awesome. Thanks for giving that context. And if you could sign us off with a one-word close, that would be wonderful.
I don't want to use energetic again. I'll sign off with disciplined.
Discipline. Why?
It takes people are always like, oh, like you guys are so lucky, or you guys are what what a stroke of genius. Like it's a little bit of luck. It's a little bit of genius, but like people don't see us working till Saturday nights at 11 p.m. And I don't think I've not set my alarm on a Saturday or Sunday since we've ran this business in, almost 6 years. So that's, almost 300 weeks of weekends. Like I set my alarm every single Saturday, Sunday. Like I think very few people know that. So when everyone's like, oh, I want to start a business or I want to start a sports betting business, like maybe you do, but maybe you don't want to wake up every Saturday and Sunday for 6 years at, 7 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning and work all day. So, yes, we were obviously lucky with sports betting, and we've been very blessed with lots of investors and partners, but the discipline is what keeps this going. So we try to outwork our competitors, and I've had to sacrifice relationships and fun and obviously money. My salary is $50,000, $9,000 less than my first job out of college at the age of 22 years old. So people just don't see that, and they think it's, an overnight success, but you got to stay disciplined. You got to put in the work, because, you might get beat if you don't.
I love it. Thanks for signing us off with such a powerful, word, and also what it means to you. So thank you very much for the great conversation, Luke.
Thanks, Tony.